Thank you, and thank you to Luigi Hamadoun and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for inviting us to attend this event and to have the discussion in the first place. I realize, having heard many of the speakers, that I didn't actually mention either the ITRs or WCIT in my notes, but I really wanted to talk about beyond Dubai and think about internet governance in the future. And as Nigel pointed out, if we want to think about the future, better to know about history. And if we look about at the last 20 years, if we're to judge by the spread and the scale of the internet, of the global public internet, and the enormous economic and social benefits it has brought about globally, then one might think that internet governance has worked rather well. Now, by nature, and particularly because in large part it's driven by users, and because the user base has diversified and grown tremendously over the past 20 years, this system of internet governance is bound to evolve. It's bound to improve. And in fact, as I understand it, in 1998, it was very much a pioneering exercise, and we always thought that internet governance would evolve. And I think we have to keep that in mind. It's a work in progress. And so I personally welcome the continued calls for improvement in internet governance systems and internet governance institutions, or institutions that deal with internet governance. I think we should continue to call for these institutions to become more international, to be truly global, in other words. We should continue to call for these institutions to be more multi-stakeholder when they're not multi-stakeholder or they're not enough inclusive of all relevant stakeholders. We should continue to call for all these institutions to be more transparent. Now, what does it actually mean? How do we embody multi-stakeholder approach in international regimes? And I think it's quite important that we shouldn't be talking about a revolution here, but rather an evolution. There's so many actors with roles, with responsibilities in this sphere that all stakeholders have to play their part. We could talk for a long time about what is multi-stakeholders, why we need it, etc. That was actually done back in the World Summit on the Information Society in 2003, 2005. I think it's accepted we need to get there. We're not there yet. Now, if we focus about international institutions, actually, the internet governance regime should be about a multi-stakeholder approach within or among international institutions. We've got a network of agencies that are all important stakeholders in internet governance. We've got ICANN for domain names. We've got IGF for policy exchanges. We've got ITU for things like spectrum and the development of supporting telecom network infrastructure. We've got UNESCO for cultural issues, WTO for trade, WIPO for copyright, many more, several more anyway. And it's not about one of these agencies, whether it's ICANN or ITU or any other, to control all of internet governance, or indeed to be excluded from, or to exclude any of these agencies, but rather it should be exactly about the contrary. It should be about applying a multi-stakeholder way of working to collaboration between all these institutions, between all these expert agencies, using each agency's particular skills, expertise and remit so that internet governance systems together deliver as much wider economic and social benefit as possible globally. Now, just a quick word about the dynamics of the ecosystem, and it's been talked about by various speakers before, and Andrea just before me in quite a bit of detail. But I think if you look at the market dynamics and you look at how we're seeing convergence accelerates, we should remember that this internet value chain, that this ecosystem is very much a virtuous cycle that's actually driven primarily by users and by innovation. So let me explain that. If you have compelling content, internet applications and content, that's what drives demand by consumers and citizens for internet access, which then, in turn, provides return for investment in networks. And then better networks open the door for more innovation in internet content and applications. So just to quote something I read this morning, it's of course the content that is available via the internet access that drives the end user's demand for high-speed access. If there had not been large amounts of content, the demand would be less and the operators would receive lower revenues from the sale of internet access. In this way, the development towards capacity-demanding content, such as the streaming of video, constitutes a win-win scenario for the content providers and network operators. That was from the Norwegian Post and Telecoms Authority was posted this week on their website. And I think it's great to hear again this phrase about win-win, which I heard from Secretary General Touré earlier. I think that should be the motto for all of us stakeholders in this scenario. We can all win, and we should all win, starting with users. It's a sustainable model that we have, and it's already sustained a test of time, in which all actors evolve, just as technology, just as the internet evolve. Businesses evolve in changing conditions. Some succeed, some experiment with new business models, others fail. That's been the case for a long time. If we artificially unbalance the virtuous cycle that we've had with the internet over the past 20 years, rather than see it evolve, it would inhibit the innovation and ultimately the economic growth potential and development potential for both individuals and nations around the world. So, in conclusion, I think we should strive for attitudes and measure that favor innovations and favor users. We should strive for the preservation of the multi-stakeholder model, and especially for the ability of industry and civil society and the technical community to take part in these discussions and bring their own expertise, and among international institutions for a multi-stakeholder approach to collaboration, to achieving a sustainable, a positive internet governance model. And we should finally strive to preserve and expand the global nature of the internet so that the single unified internet grows to interconnect and to benefit even more regions and even more users around the globe without fragmenting into smaller, separate regional networks, which would entirely devalue its economic and social utility. There needs not be a digital Cold War, as I've heard others refer, fighting old-style battles for old models. It should be, in fact, an era of collaboration within the symbiotic ecosystem that is the internet value chain. It should be an era of collaboration, an age of enlightenment. Let's go there.